I do want to continue to our last but not least lecture. We keep the most important to the end. I'm just kidding. Everything is important in the cloud security, guys. But eventually, beyond the visibility, you need to know how to make cloud security enforceable. And we have here Ariel, which is the CTO and co-founder at Ariel Security. By the way, if you are not familiar, Ariel is a cyber entrepreneur with vast background in entrepreneurship. I read about him before the meetup on his LinkedIn page, and he's a problem solver. Always go to the problem solver person. He will solve your problem. So, Ariel, I will give you the control now. So feel free to start. The stage is all yours.
Awesome. I forgot at the time I'm a problem solver, so thank you, Lior, for talking about it. So first of all, I really want to thank the speakers who came before me. I think that we have seen that the evolution of cloud security is very long. We have looked at the challenges of securing the cloud, and even with the emphasis on cloud adoption and migration. And we have seen a great talk about the potential of using some of the cloud native mechanisms, cloud enforcement mechanisms to prevent security gaps. But also, we saw a lot of limitations about it. So this talk, from my perspective, is less about, it's not about a specific solution. It's about presenting the concept and how we can solve the problem of creating a cloud more enforceable and actionable. And we're going to focus on the principles and the principles that can and should be put into practice to create a more proactive reality. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Ariel. I'm the CTO of Ariel Security. I was responsible for transitioning the IDF to the public cloud from the security perspective. I opened the first cloud security team and then the first cloud security group. During this process, I worked closely with the CISO of AWS, CJ Moses, with executives from Azure. And the reason why they worked with us wasn't because we had a large cloud environments, but it was because we brought a very unique approach for cloud security. And for them, this was an opportunity to improve the cloud native mechanisms and make the preventative approach more accessible and more reachable, especially for highly regulated industries like healthcare, finance, insurance. What we're building at Arion is based on this experience, and I think the best thing to do is to go through the experience and go through our perspective of cloud security. And of course, feel free to write questions, and I'll answer everything after this part. Cool. Okay. I am trying to move to the next slide. Lior, can you help me with?
Yes, I will. Give you once again
I,
control.
yeah, I just received a message. Please close all browsers and rejoin the meeting if you want to control it. So, so please help me with navigating the slides. Cool. So let's talk about the life cycle of cloud native security. So first of all, it's very clear that this is a complex process that can be partially manual and partially automated. But at a high level, I think that we can look on the cloud native security lifecycle with the following steps. The first part refers to the various ways resources can be created in the cloud. And today, we see that the cloud infrastructure in organizations is very complex in several ways. First of all, technologically, starting from infrastructure as code frameworks like Terraform to completely manual operations, ClickOps through the CLI or Web Console. You talked a little bit about infrastructure as code and the future of infrastructure as code and the adoption today. I think that the last statistic I saw regarding it is that less than 15% of the organizations have fully matured infrastructure as code. And most of them are the technological organizations, the startups that are now bigger. So this is a huge challenge. And when we're talking about medium and large enterprises, so from technological aspect, we see different technologies, including manual operations, including legacy scripts like PowerShells and scripts that are not part of an infrastructure as code. The second thing we see regarding the first part is those who are responsible for creating cloud resources, there are IT teams, DevOps teams, sometimes even external vendor. And this complexity is maybe the top reason for cloud misconfigurations, because we're talking about different methods, different technologies, different organizational units. So this creates a huge challenge. Then the second step, as we can see here, is the CSPM products. They scan the cloud environment, and organizations are using them to manage their posture and identify all the security risks in their cloud environments. And even organizations without CSPM, so they use pen test or other approaches or the cloud native CSPM mechanisms. And then in the final part, organizations conduct a remediation process where they prioritize the gaps, perform root cause analysis to gain the appropriate context, execute a risk management process, and then plan remediation, most of the time collaborating with engineering teams to address the gaps. So this is usually the process, and let's talk about the problem space we're solving. So we identified the following problem: what even the best CSPM products, and there are great CSPM products, but what they haven't changed is that cloud security remains mainly reactive, because security risks, they are only addressed after they emerge in production. And as long as this remains the case, we believe that something in the process is broken. So first of all, gaps today reach production environments and put organizations at risk until they are resolved. So whenever there is and I think that we saw great examples, but whenever there is an encrypted database or a public storage or a server with weak authentication, the organization is at risk of data leakage or security breaches in its cloud environment. And even if there is a great CSPM tool that helps identify gaps quickly, the remediation process is very complex and mainly manual. I think that there was an attempt, and Pramod just added in his slides regarding auto remediation tools or companies, but the attempt of auto remediation has failed, mainly because of the risk of breaking production. I think that even if you have 99% of auto remediation, can you go back, please, Lior? Yeah, sure. So even if you have 99% of auto remediation, it's still not enough. A 1% of risk of breaking production is too high. Also, when we're talking about the challenges, so we talked about the risk, but also we see a lot of symptoms like high volume of gaps, long MTTRs, and organizational friction. And all of those symptoms are thanks to the reactive nature of cloud security. I think that an interesting use case to talk about was at Volkswagen. So the attack at Volkswagen was a few months ago, and data from 800,000 users um, was stolen because of a cloud misconfiguration. They had a CSPM product, but just didn't manage to address the gap before it was exploited by the attacker. And we can provide more examples. But our fundamental approach regarding the problem is that cloud security today is mainly reactive. And this is the root cause for the remediation problems, for the risk, and for the other problems I have presented. So let's talk about a different approach. So before this, let's see some statistics regarding the market. So Gartner conducted just comprehensive analysis of the cloud security market last year. And from this analysis, we can see, first of all, that most of the organizations are highly prioritized preventing security risks rather than just detecting and resolving them. And the second report talks about the fact that 99% of the compromised records will result from cloud misconfigurations. So this is the motivation that gave us the ability to create a different future for cloud security. So let's talk about our approach. So our approach is built on the principle that actually a lot of issues that found today in production environments can actually be prevented, can actually be avoided, because the knowledge to avoid them already exists. So the idea is the following: let's create a reality in which the cloud security strategy can be enforced and truly ensuring it's implemented across cloud environments. The idea is to ensure that the creation or modification of resources is secure from the beginning. Um, Lior, can you share the screen again? Because I lost the screen. Eyal, do you see the screen? The sharing?
No.
Okay. We'll wait
Maybe
for
his
Eyal.
machine was restarted or something.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. I will.
Ariel, can you please present from your
Sure.
laptop? I have hard restart.
I see.
On my computer. Sorry for that.
No, that's fine. Give me a second. So if you can open the sharing option, I will share my screen. Okay. Take me a minute. Perfect. Can you enable the sharing option, please, Lior? It's disabled.
Yes. Everyone, wow. I think everyone can share from there. Can you share it?
Let's see. No, it's disabled, fortunately. Can you share from your computer? I will send you the link. Sorry, guys, for the situation.
Yes, please, Ariel, please continue. I'm trying to work on the presentation, but please continue with your presentation. I will share in a minute.
Sure, sounds good. So sorry again for this. So the fundamental approach is the ability to make sure that the security risks are prevented. And I think that one of the interesting parts that Eyal talked about them is not only about the potential of enforcement, but also about some of the problems or challenges or limitations. And those limitations are maybe the main reasons why it's so difficult for organizations uh, to create guardrails and security policies to protect the cloud environment. So just in his presentation, Eyal talked about the sizes and the limitations of the number of policies. Eyal also talked about the complexity, a lot of different mechanisms. So someone needs to write those policies, maintain them over time. Sometimes the APIs are changing, so the policies should be updated. Sometimes, for example, if we're talking about AWS, so we talked about not only preventative policies, but also alert mode policies. So in AWS, SCPs, for example, service control policies are only in preventing mode. So there are a lot of limitations and challenges that make the enforcement in the cloud less reachable and accessible than it could be. What we did inside IDF is this one. We worked very hard.
Ariel, you can share your presentation now. Please try. I gave you permissions.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Sure. Awesome. I hope that you can see my screen now. Perfect.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So those limitations are the main reasons why enforcement isn't reachable and achievable enough until now. And when we ask organizations if they were able to prevent most of the security risks, and they have a great visibility and CSPM product so they can check it, most of the time the answer is not. And what Arion does is taking all those limitations, all those challenges, and make it transparent as it can be for the customers. So let's talk a little bit about the advantages of the proactive approach. So first of all, the proactive approach allows the organization to reduce the risk, because we see today that cloud attacks are becoming more and more common. And when this is the situation, the organizations should find a better way to avoid those attacks. So preventing them at the first place, in the first place, is much better than detecting and then trying to remediating them after the fact. The second advantage is the amount of resources that it takes to remediate and resolve security risks. For example, on some of the databases versions, if you're upload an encrypted database, you can't encrypt it. You need to upload a new instance, migrate all the data, connect the new one, remove the old one. It takes weeks or months for the organization. While if we're able to prevent this misconfiguration, the user just need to change one parameter and that's it. The next one is the secure by design approach, that is, of course, more secured by nature. And the last one, but not the least one, is the security awareness. When we're talking not only with the security teams, but with the IT and DevOps teams, after using preventative controls effectively, whether it is with our product or with other use cases, over the time, the same people, they are aware for the organizational policy. They start create less mistakes. They create the resources securely from the beginning. So blocks and preventions are becoming less and less common. Of course, there are different teams and new IT or DevOps teams that are joining all the time, and there are a lot of misconfigurations, but the same people, they learn from their mistakes, they understand what is the organizational policy much better, and they improve their capabilities. Cool. So let's talk from the technological aspect regarding our platform. So first of all, let's talk about our enforcement layer. So our enforcement layer focuses on protecting the entire cloud infrastructure and not only the infrastructure as code. This is why we decided to put our enforcement layer as part of the cloud and not as a part of the pipeline. Because as I explained earlier, when we're talking about medium and large enterprises, we see a lot of different ways. Some of them, or even most of them in certain cases, are not part of the infrastructure as code pipeline. The huge advantage of creating an enforcement layer that is based on cloud environments and cloud mechanisms is, first of all, the entire cloud is covered by those mechanisms. So the same experience for those who are working from ClickOps and manual operations and those who are working from the pipeline. The second advantage is the context of the cloud. When we are at the cloud level, we are able to receive a better context. For example, different cloud environments. If we want to enforce security policies only on the production scopes, we can do it very easily. While if we are in the context of the infrastructure as code, this is much harder because it's very common to use the same pipeline, sometimes even the same Terraform or CloudFormation files to upload resources to production and non-production scopes. So this is also a huge advantage. And the third one is the ability actually to govern the cloud environment from one place, the same governance on the entire cloud infrastructure. The second part is the policy engine. So our policy engine came from the understanding that it's very hard to define what is a good security policy, but even more to update and maintain it over time. And organizations today change so fast that even if one puts the effort into defining good policies, it's very hard to maintain them over the time. So our policy engine consumes context both from the organization's cloud environment and both from the changes occurring in the cloud environment, in the external context, like security policies from other organizations, new threats that are discovered, or sometimes newly published CVEs. And then it recommends tailor-made policies for the customer's environment. And we believe that the right key for creating an enforcement layer that is achievable, that can be achieved without the efforts, is to provide a good enforcement layer and the strong policy engine that actually recommends what are the tailor-made policies for the cloud providers. And as I said, at the same time, providing capabilities that will allow to overcome all the challenges, all the difficulties of using the cloud native mechanisms. So the cloud native mechanisms today are very powerful. The idea from our approach is to understand better how to use them in a way that can be achieved without a lot of resources and hard work. And this is what we did inside the IDF. And what we want to make sure is that cloud enforcement today is more achievable than ever. So I think that regarding the use cases, because I believe that Eyal touched most of them, so we can go over. And I would love to hear any questions that you have. So this was my presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Lior, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Yes, I'm sorry for that. I have still technical difficulties. So guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Ariel. Guys, if you have any further questions to any of our lectures, please feel free to write them in the Q&A or in the chat. Okay, let's see, guys. If you have any questions, please write them down in the Q&A. Of course, we'll answer all your questions, all the panelists here. Let's see, we have Nitzan. You want to ask any question to Ariel? If you have any more questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ariel from his experience. I just wrote it to you, Leo, because you have, a radiophonic voice. So I just wanted to ask from his perspective, because it seems like there are a lot of angles for the platforms. What does he feel that from security or IT perspective, what is the right angle that you see the best usage of this platform? Because I can think about developers, I can think about IT, I can think about security professionals. Who is the target audience? All of them, different views?
Awesome. That's a great question. So what we see is very interesting from the perspective of the stakeholders. So what we believe is the right approach and what is common is the following. The security team, the security architects, the security cloud architects, they are going to be responsible on the organizational policy. And with them, we build the organizational policy, we enforce the organizational policy. At the same time, the IT and DevOps teams are very important because those teams are responsible for uploading the resources to the cloud. So the right balance is, first of all, to ensure, and maybe let's talk about this part. I think that Eyal mentioned twice or even 3 times that one of the challenges of enforcement is the risk of breaking production. So we did a lot of things to eliminate this risk. We created an enforcement mechanism that doesn't affect the running resources, the running production environments. We just make sure that new resources and changes for secure resources are going to be secured by the policies. When this is the situation, the most important part is to provide a great context for the IT and DevOps teams regarding their mistakes. So this is the first important part. The second important part is to make sure that they are aware of the organizational policy. So we found the right balance to make sure that those 2 conditions are in place. And from this moment, the security team can focus on the resilience or building the policies. The IT or DevOps teams, for them, Ariel is transparent. They continue to create resources. If everything is secure, Ariel is transparent. If something is not secure, they receive a precise feedback about what is the problem, how to resolve it. They are able to resolve it. And this cycle ends without the security teams. We don't need the friction between security and IT teams like in remediation, because the resources are there, the risk is there. This is not the case when we prevent something. The IT or DevOps teams, they can fix the things without the security teams. The security teams, instead of putting out fires, they can focus on building the security policies. Thank you for the question.